question. What's heaven going to be like? Have you decided in your life overall, you've heard of heaven, you've heard that there's going to be one. What's going to happen in heaven? You're going to worship. What else? No labor. By the way, just a side note, I think BJ's single. Many of you are. What I learned right before tonight is that he could actually play the guitar very well if he didn't spend so much time watching golf on TV, right, BJ? Where do you go? Yeah, if he'd just get off the golf television. Okay, back to heaven. Some of you girls are like, it's heaven. That's what I was thinking. What else is it going to be? No pain. You can't gain weight. But you do get to eat, right? All right, you get to eat and not gain any weight. Okay, from the right side of my room.
The Aggies might be real champions.
Again, what's your school? Okay. Mansions all over the place. What else? Huh? Loved ones. Beautiful. What else? Just love everywhere. Just all over the place. Gonna be some Sonics in heaven. I know my man, yeah, because you don't want to cook. My man Brian over there is going to be up there with the sound system waiting for my truck that I'm going to have when I get to heaven. It's just going to be huge. I want to bring some big stuff. Because we're going to need big stuff. Here's the deal. Truthfully, even if you go study your scripture, and even if you go look in the Bible and listen to everything you've ever heard, we don't actually have a whole lot of eyewitnesses that can tell us what heaven looks just like. But I think there are some really crazy ideas that we have of that. But here's my thought. This whole March Madness thing kind of wraps up tonight, and it's the madness of that last few seconds, like when A&M did get beat, which was ungodly, and we know that that was Satan taking over the world for a second. During that time, it was crazy. It's like the last 10 seconds of every game when you still have hope. Like some of you, your team's down like by 46, and you're like, dude, there's 2 minutes left. We can do this. We can do this. They're big guys. Just bow out. We're going to make it. You're not going to make it. But anyway, the whole thing, we showed some clips the other day about how crazy the last few seconds of a game is. And that's the whole madness concept of March Madness, is how it all comes down to the end. And their goal for TV networking is that tomorrow night, Florida and Ohio State play, and it's in the quadruple overtime, and the final shot is a three-pointer from the other end of the court that is a game never to be forgotten. Some of you would just love that. Right now you're thinking, who made the three-pointer? That's what I want to know. Because I don't know if I'm excited yet or not. No. That's madness. Here's what I think. Anybody ever had any exciting times in your life?
Yes.
What? Give me an example.
I married Steve.
You did marry Steve.
Twice.
Yeah, I was there for the second one. That's pretty awesome. I want you to understand that I truly believe the most exciting thing you will ever experience, the most brain-blowing thing you'll ever see is what happens immediately following your death. Because here's the deal, I've seen some exciting things. My wife gave birth in a truck. Anybody? Anyone? It's like that Brian Regan guy, I walk on the moon. What else? What you gonna say? But still, even as exciting as that was, when we slammed on the brakes and ran around, I won't tell the story again. She's tired of it, I promise. When I die and leave this place, the next 5 minutes of my existence will show me what my eternity is going to look like. And I truly believe that that will be the most amazing, exciting, crazy thing you ever experience in your existence. I keep wanting to say in your life, but then when someone would go, but I'm dead. So, in your existence. But here's my question. How many of you, just raise your hand if you, because we're family lot more people. My question is, I can ask this because we're at XL and we're not supposed to do things right anyway, and we're not nice people and we do freaky things. Oh, I'm not in the light. That's bad. I know I just went dark, so I just keep moving. How many of you have always thought in your life, you're like, okay, I really want to go to heaven, and I think I should want to go right now, but I kind of just don't want to go right now. And I would kind of like to live a little bit before I go. I just think we can answer some questions, or at least ask some questions here that most people wouldn't let you ask, but the truth is, some of you think all you have ever heard in your life is that heaven is going to be all singing all the time. You ever heard that? You know you've heard it. And you're thinking to yourself, you're going, self, I love Jesus. I love the Lord. I love the concept of heaven. I hate singing. Okay, so when I get to heaven, what the heck am I going to do? You think that. Some of you are still wondering to this day if there's golf in heaven. And you don't know. I haven't gone through those times where I think heaven is going to be personal. Whatever your heaven's going to be, you'll have. I'll have pizza and Diet Coke everywhere. Like I'll just hit a button someplace in heaven and pizza will just start falling out of trees and stuff. And Diet Coke shooting out the bottom of things, and it's heaven for me. We don't really know what it's going to be like, do we? But what I want you to understand is as we look at all these things, I read this book, I read some of this book, let me clarify because I don't usually read all the books. I read part of this book the other day, and there's a guy in there, his dad was 99 years old. And he went to the hospital, and his dad was starting to feel bad and stuff, and he went to the hospital, and he said to his dad, he said, Dad, are you ready to die? And his dad says, yes, son, I've got a relationship with Jesus Christ, and I am ready. Just checking, just wanted to make sure, wanted to have that relationship, everything's good. So his dad goes in the hospital, and he's pretty sick, bless you, and he's pretty sick, and the nurses cannot get him to lay down and go to sleep. And he's sitting up in his chair watching TV, which I will be doing when I'm 99. And I will be drinking a Diet Coke still, proving aspartame wrong. But he's sitting there in his chair, and he will not lay down, but he doesn't feel good, everything's going wrong, and they finally call the son in and say, son, they don't say that, they call him, what's his name? His name is Max Dupree is this guy's name, and his dad was the one who was sick. And they said, Max, here's the deal, your dad needs to lay down and get some sleep, and we can't get him to do that. So Max goes in and begins this conversation, trying to get his dad to go to bed. And his dad's like, you know, they're having that conversation, you know, that casual conversation when you know you want to say something else, but you haven't yet. And you're all into saying this stuff, and then he goes, okay, Dad, you ready to go to bed? And his dad says, nope. Okay. And he starts more of that casual conversation, you know. And finally, for the third time, he says to his dad, Dad, it's time to go to bed. Are you ready? He said, no, son, I'm not. And he says, Dad, why do you not want to go to bed? And his dad said this, and I believe you can know this sometimes. It's kind of a trip, but he says this, son, I know that when I lay down in that bed, I'm going to die. And I'm not going to get up again. And this 99-year-old man says this, and his son says, but Dad, you told me you were ready to die. And he said, yes, I am, but not today. 99 years old, and he still has that same attitude. Man, I love Jesus, love the Lord, love the idea of heaven. Not really ready to go yet. And I wanted to bring that up tonight because I think it's something that a lot of people think, and we think because we've been through church at some point in our life and we've heard something about it, we're thinking to ourselves, you're supposed to want to go all the time. Like right now. Anytime anybody ever asks that question, you're supposed to want to go. And I just want you to understand that God's okay with you saying sometimes, hey, God, yes, bring your kingdom, just not yet. Because he knows we're living, he knows who we are, he knows our thoughts, our ideas. But I want to make sure you understand what it's going to be like. Because here's the deal, I know, because I work for a church, been with the Lord for a number of years, and do not think I still have this thought in my head sometimes. Eternity. That's a long time. Like, what you going to do after, like, I don't know, a billion years? Y'all never had those thoughts? Like, I'm the only sinner in the room. What are you going to do that, like, excites you after 4 billion years of heaven? Because you know eternity doesn't stop. Y'all ever figure that out? Like, you know, you're in class and you're like 30 minutes into an hour class and you're like, oh, this is eternity! Not really. Because eternity is never ever going to stop. And you're going to be in heaven for eternity. You will be in your afterlife for eternity. And I know that some of you think, dang, that's going to be a long time. One pastor, I read this story, the same book, Mark Buchanan was telling the story, and he said, I have heard people say that heaven is going to be like a worship service that never ends. Some of you are now going, dude, are you done? When can I go home? A worship service that never ends. This guy, he was telling the story, he said, I have been in worship services, that 45 minute, that 50th minute, and you're running on the hour, and you're going over, and it's lunchtime, and you begin to yawn like crazy, and for the first 10 minutes of the service, you're like, well, I better hide that. And then about 45 minutes in, you're like, gotta get out of here. And then at the end of his study, he goes, I do that, and I was the preacher. So, if the guy teaching you is thinking those things, some of you here, heaven's going to be just a constant worship service, and you seriously, because it's okay to think this, you seriously think, holy smoke, I'm never going to get to go to lunch, ever. I am never going to make it out of the building of heaven, whatever that building looks like, I'm never getting out of that to go eat. Because it's a worship service that never, ever, 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 ever stops. But I want you to see what heaven is going to be. Because when you leave this place, it's going to be pretty cool. And I think there's some amazing things. John was the writer of the book of Revelation, and he gives a lot of pictures of what heaven is. But the problem with some of it is he uses symbolism. And we are literal people. Some of us more than others. Some of you can't, like, you're like so literal, you can't get vision for nothing. You're like, okay, is it written down? Are there 4 steps? If there aren't 4 steps, I'm staying home. The rest of you are kind of like you can at least envision something. What God uses in the book of Revelation is symbolism. And it talks about some things. For one, it says that we're all going to be wearing white robes in heaven. How many of you seriously have read that and thought, dude, toga party for eternity? How cool is that? And then some of you are like, oh, no, I do not look good in white. And it's going to get dirty, and my kids are going to be there, and they're going to jack everything up, because I don't let them wear white on earth. Sure not let them wear white in heaven. But you know what that means? Fine linen in scriptural days was the symbol of righteousness. That means in heaven, you are completely righteous. That means you cannot commit sin anymore. Any hallelujah times for that? Yeah. Why is that? Because on this place called earth, this big ball we live on now called earth, I got a problem with that. I know you've all mastered it. I've not mastered the ability to never commit sin. I know you all have, and I apologize for leading you as a sinner piece of trash, but that's who I am. But in heaven, when God wraps you in a beautiful white robe, that is symbolic of the fact that he has wrapped you in his blood and his righteousness, and never again will you even be tempted to commit sin. That's pretty cool. So you don't just have to think it's a toga party for the rest of eternity. You can know that it's about righteousness. The mansions that Kim mentions. How many of you would like a pretty big mansion? Anybody good with that? How many of you recognize that you're going to be on the other side of the tracks with me? And you're just glad you got there. You know, you're like, dude, 2-bedroom house, fine, just get me in the gate. Because I know it's a gated community. I'll never live in one of those here, and I'm hoping to get in one there. Yeah, just let me in, Jesus, let me in. You know what that means? That mansion is symbolic of you're finally going to be home. And you know what? I know we can get funny and serious real quick around this place, but some of you, for years and years and years, have been dying for a home. And your family fell apart. And you need a home. And you've been in this situation, and life has changed, and it just jacked with your whole world, and you've been dying lately just to feel at home. You know what happens when you get to heaven? It's the ultimate homecoming for you. It's everything you ever dreamed of about home. And I don't mean I'm finally going to get a house without a fence that I built that goes like this. Because I do believe my mansion is going to have a steel fence around it and it would never make eternity. It didn't make 6 months at my house. So, but truthfully, when you start talking about the mansions in heaven, what God is representing and symbolizing for you is you are going to be at home. And you know how you get to live at home. You know that you get to do things at home when you walk in and your kids jump up on the couch and somebody says, "Do you put your feet on the couch at home?" And my kids go, "Yeah. I jump on my couch at home. Take that." But you know what? You get to be yourself at home. And for eternity, you get to step up as a completely righteous being that God created and loved and brought to heaven and said, "This is your home. You do what you want to do." Because everything about you is about me. And you are exactly who God created you to be at that time. And he says to you, "Welcome home." And all of those pains, we heard just a minute ago, there's not going to be any pain in heaven, not going to be any suffering in heaven, not going to be any of these things that we have here on earth. The truth is, one of the coolest parts to me about that is that we will be home. And you'll never long for that again. That's what heaven's going to be. Let's look at some more of these symbols. One of them was, John actually writes in the book of Revelation that there will be no seas in heaven, as in not ocean but sea, not just the letter C, for those of you that think I'm a freak. There will be no seas in heaven. Can anybody tell me why there will be no seas in heaven? God just against water? He's like, finally, after all this time, I'm just going to get rid of all the water. Do you know where? You don't know where yet. I'll tell you. John was in prison on an island. And the sea around him was his prison. And when he writes this, he is symbolizing to you, listen, there will be nothing in heaven that holds you back from being everything that you want to be. Because the sea around him was the very thing that kept him from his family. That kept him from doing the things he wanted to do. That was his prison. And what he says to you is, "Hey Gina, no more prison in heaven. Anything you want to do. Linda, it's crazy, but anything you want to do." We might need to have some seeds for Linda, just in case. Just a bathtub full of water, just kind of keep you limited there. That's what the gates are for, just for Linda. But this is the symbolism, and if you read that correctly, you seriously go to bed and go, "Why does God not like water anymore?" But the symbolism behind that is you are free, finally, to be everything God built you to be. And then the last one is this. You've heard that when you get to heaven, you're going to be walking down streets of? Yeah. Here's the deal. I don't know if you're going to have streets. I don't know if you're going to have curbs. I don't know if you're going to have a Starbucks. Some of you are like, "We better." And some of you are like me thinking, all coffee's going to be in hell, people. You just know that. All of heaven is Coke products. All coffee's in hell. Different subjects. We'll go on that next week. When John writes about the community and writes about the streets and writes about how much time and effort God puts into creating the heaven that you're going to be in, what he's talking about is what you have finally hit is the ultimate community. And in the ultimate community, we push this in churches all the time that you need to be in a community group or a small group so that you can experience community. And the key to me to community is not being alone. Not being lonely anymore. And God's promise to you is, you give your life to me, I'll bring you to heaven, and you will never, ever, ever, ever be alone anymore. And you will spend eternity with complete community around you. And the weird jacked up part is that most of us think of that as hell. And we think, well, hell's going to be this big party with all my friends. And I really hope that all my friends go there with me because I'd hate to be there all by myself, so I'm going to, go to hell and party a lot. And here's the truth. Hell is the ultimate separation. One guy describes it as a bunch of homes that are very, very far apart, and all the people in hell, just all they do is continue to move their homes further and further and further apart. Because it's ultimate separation. And it's not just separation from God, which is the ultimate of hell, it's separation from everyone. And that's the difference when you're looking for that ultimate community. When you're sitting here tonight and you think, man, I am so lonely. I came to this XL thing because I need some friends. I need someone to love me no matter what I've done, no matter what I've messed up in the past. I just need somebody to care about me. You know what? We're going to do that here, but it does not compare in any way to what God's going to do in your life. No way does that compare to what God is going to do in your life. But I want you to understand, we're going to move on to the next part, but the deal is, one day, for those of you that are in that boat that I get in sometimes of, God, I want to be in heaven, I want to be with you, but you know what? Tomorrow's okay. You know, it doesn't have to be tonight. God will grow you, and one day you'll be ready. But if it's not today, that's okay. You don't have to go home and talk to your wife and go, oh, dang, I'm not ready. I gotta get ready. I gotta want to go today. It's okay. But one day when you do get there, that's what you're going to see. You're going to see a God that opens the gate for you and says, come on into your new home and have ultimate community. Everything you've ever wanted, needed, and desired in your life is here, waiting on you. That's a super cool part to heaven to me. Now the question is, how do we get there? How do we make sure that when we leave this place, we go there? Because I know there are options, and I'm pretty sure none of us is going to sit in this room tonight and go, you know what, I'd actually rather go to heaven. I mean, complete separation, nothing I've ever wanted, all loneliness all the time for eternity. I'd choose that. But you know what? Some of us choose that every day because we're not choosing anything else. But I want you to hear from me very quickly just some passages on how do we get to that point. First thing you got to do is recognize that this is all about Jesus, and it's not about us. Luke chapter 9, verse 23 says, Then he said to the crowd, if any of you wants to be my follower, you must turn from your selfish ways, take up your cross daily, and follow me wherever I go. He used that example because all these guys are down there fishing and working like crazy, and he says to them, listen, if y'all want to follow me, it's time. Let's go. You drop everything you got to drop, quit everything you got to quit, and me and you were on the road. But you know what those guys had to make the decision of? It is no longer about me, it is about him, and I'm going to follow him wherever he wants me to go. That's when you decide, I'm going to take heaven because I'm going to follow my master wherever he wants me to go. What do you do with that? Number two, you got to recognize your need for him. I know that it's a pretty simple concept. Actually, most of the time, we do have those people like me that are just impulse buyers. You know, you'll buy anything at any point in time. Like you get stressed and you go spend $100. Some of y'all in this room, yeah, you don't want to admit that. I understand, losers. But the majority of time, when you go buy things, it is because you needed them. That's my wife. She will buy things that we need, right, Meg? I will buy things that no one in America has ever needed, and I still want it because I need it. She buys the things that we actually need. You know what? If you don't recognize that you have a need for a relationship with Jesus Christ, you're not ever going to start one. So what Scripture says in Romans chapter 3, verse 23 says, everyone has sinned, and we all fall short of God's glorious standard for us. When God built us, he built us with a standard. And every one of us has fallen below that standard because of who we are and how we live. And listen to me very carefully. The fact that you have fallen below that standard means that without Jesus, you spend eternity in that hell that I'm talking about. That's as clear as you're ever going to hear it. God set a standard for you. Your life, when you were born into this world, you were below that standard already. And if any of you want to say, no, I wasn't born below that standard, well, I'm pretty much sure you're below it by now. So, we know we're below God's standard. So what we understand is the cost of that. We talked about it last week, a couple weeks ago. The cost of it is that every time someone sins, someone's got to die. And unless you accept Christ's death for you, you spend eternity in hell, completely separated from the God that created you. You've got to recognize that you have a need. Then the third thing is you've got to accept the gift he offers you. The coolest thing in the world about Christmas is looking at all the gifts under the tree and just leaving them until next year, right? Just walking away. Y'all don't open your gifts, do you? We never do. We just look at them. No, we we don't. That's ridiculous. My wife wouldn't look at it for like half a second. She doesn't even, if I come home, I'm going to tell this story. If I come home and say, babe, I got a surprise for you, I'm going to give it to you next week. No, I'm not. I'm going to give that to her when? Now. Why? Because you don't do the whole, I got a surprise for you later. No, you don't. The surprise is I'm getting it now. You can do whatever you want to later. But the truth is, yes, we can say we're all really nice people, and the real glory is giving things to people. Yeah, whatever. You love to get stuff. But you can't take it home unless you accept it, unwrap it, say thank you for it, and take it home. What Jesus says to us very clearly is in John 3:16, for God loved the world so much that he gave his only son, so that everyone who believes in him will not perish but have eternal life. But you know what he does? He puts a gift out in front of you and says, unwrap this bad boy and take it home with you. And well over half the people in this world will say no to that gift before they die. Because they decided, you know what, I don't really think I want the gift now, so I think I'm just going to go with the hell choice for eternity. One more verse, it says this in Romans 10:9-13. If you confess with your mouth that Jesus is Lord, and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you will be saved. For it is by believing in your heart that you are made right with God, and it is by confessing with your mouth that you are saved. As the scriptures tell us, anyone who trusts in him will never be disgraced. Jew and Gentile are all the same in this respect. They have the same Lord who gives generously to all who call on him. For everyone, listen to me, everyone who calls on the name of the Lord will be saved. By definition, the word saved means everyone who calls on the name of the Lord will be given a relationship with him. That not only blesses your life abundantly on this earth, also gives you the opportunity to spend eternity with him in heaven. That's what God says in Romans chapter 10, verse 9-13. If you call on me, I'll take you home with me. And I'll give you all the things I told you heaven was going to be. That is what God says heaven is going to be like. And that's how you get there. And the key to that is very clear. Listen to me. There has to be a time in your life where you said to God, okay, God, I want to accept your gift, and I want to give you my life, and I want to spend eternity with you. We have way too many people in our world today that think they're going to heaven because their mom and dad are going to heaven. Or think they're okay because I've been in church since forever, and I must be okay. I want you to hear from me as clearly as possible, because I don't want to get to heaven and you not be there and God say, why didn't you tell them? I'm going to tell you. If you don't have that time in your life, I'm not saying you have to remember what couch you were sitting on and what day of the year it was. I'm saying you got to know there was a time in your life where you gave your life, control of your life, to Jesus Christ to be your Lord and Savior. And if you have done that, it's the only chance you'll have. It's the only way to know without a doubt today that you're going to spend eternity with God in heaven. So before you leave tonight, and if it's not before that, when you get home tonight, make sure that you're sitting someplace alone with the Creator God and saying, make sure, God, that I'm right with you. Because I want that relationship. And I'm going to tell you the real madness part of it. I'll tell you one more story. I know I'm over time, but I'll tell you my story because this is crazy. My children, I love starting sentences, but this is crazy. My children, I'm on the yard yesterday, which I hate with all my passion to do, and halfway through the front yard, I noticed my children bringing all of everything in our house that we own to drink outside in Dixie cups. So it's already been popped the top on, poured into 1,000 Dixie cups, and brought out and set on a table. My first response is always, where's your mother? That kind of deal. She told me later she'd had enough, so she's like, whatever, ladies, just do what you gotta do. It happens. I know. But I noticed this, and they tell me that Taylor's trying to raise money for something at school, so she's decided she's going to set up a lemonade stand out front. She's got Diet Coke, lemonade, and orange juice in cups, already poured out, ready to go. So I began to have a conversation with her, and she lets me know that this is $5 for a cup of orange juice, $2 for lemonade, and only $1 for the Diet Coke. Okay, first of all, I'm completely offended that the Diet Coke's cheapest. There's no reason for that. That should be $100, but that's beside the point. But then, and this is because Jordan had a line over here that she's selling, but she didn't have any orange juice for some reason. Taylor's got all three products on her side of the table. Jordan wants some orange juice, but Taylor won't give her any because it's for sale. And for Jordan, it's $10 for orange juice. If she wants a cup of my orange juice, it's $10. So I'm sitting out there as the father, you know, trying to teach lessons and learn things, and I'm like, I ain't giving you $10, I'll give you $2. We're going back and forth over this stuff. But I end up paying $2 for a Dixie cup that I own, full of orange juice that I purchased for my daughter that I don't even get to drink it. She does. So I paid the $2 for what I owned so someone else could drink it. And I know that she thinks I'm out mowing the yard, so I'll pay just about anything. I'm like, I'm not giving you $50 for lemonade here, girl. But here's the best example I can see in that. The God that created us sent his son to die on the cross for something he did not do. To pay for something that he already owns. To give you an opportunity to spend eternity with him in heaven for your benefit, not his. And I'm watching these girls try to sell lemonade for $10. And the postman comes by and I say, did you sell her anything? And she says, no, she didn't have no money. So I'm sure that Taylor went up to her and said, $10 for this lemonade. And you ain't getting none if you don't pay the price, I'll tell you. You know what God says? I'm going to give my son Jesus Christ to you for something he didn't do, to pay for something you did. And in that, he's buying back something that I created and already own so that you can have an opportunity to say yes or no to me. That's the madness. That is the ultimate in the madness of who God is and the fact that he did all of that so you can have a chance to spend eternity with him.